Time for another bleed. If I didn't know better, I'd say these X2s were designed to have some kind of menstrual cycle. Well, at least it doesn't get all nutty on me. Hey folks, we're back again with another video, and today we're going to be working on a Fox Factory Series Float X2 rear shock. So I'm going to make two videos out of this shock. One of them is going to be a full service video for a 2024 and newer Float X2. That's not going to be this video. This video is going to be about bleeding Fox X2 shocks, and it's going to work for many different years of Fox X2 shocks. Why am I making a separate bleed video? As great as these shocks are, man, they are totally unpredictable, and sometimes they fail prematurely, and you don't need to always do a full service in order to fix that problem. You just need to go in there and give it a bleed job. Change out the oils, or at least top off the oils. If the oils are very aerated, then you definitely want to change them out, right? Because the biggest failure points is air or nitrogen gets sucked in from the IFP chamber into the oil side, and ultimately it froths it up and makes it all soft. So we're going to solve that problem if it happens to you, so we could get you back on the trails as quick as possible. Let's go over the tools needed for the job. As for tools, the most important tool on this table, right there, safety glasses. Wear your safety glasses. We're going to go over the tools in order of use, right? So for starters, you're going to need a pen and a pad, or a pencil and a pad. First, we're going to measure down our air, and then we're going to remove the air. Shock air pump comes in handy for that. Then we want to take down our dial settings, 3mm Allen, 6mm Allen to write down our dial settings. Then we're going to take the shock, we're going to put it on a flat jaw on a vise. You're going to need a vise for this job. A pick comes in handy in order to remove the retaining ring that holds the outer air can down. From there, we want to remove the outer air can. To do that, we are going to need a special tool. So this is a Fox tool. This is Fox's actual tool, 398-00-491. Very expensive. You could buy aftermarket versions that work just as good for way, way less. Like we're talking about a quarter of the cost, right? The nice thing about this one, it has a protective layer on it, so it protects the Kashima coating. If you're careful enough with this one, that will do the same. Also, to remove the inner air can, we are going to need Fox sleeve vise. So this is an aftermarket, way cheaper than buying, metal ones, and it will work just as good. We are going to need to remove the cap that attaches to the inner air can. For that, we are going to need two things. We're going to need a 9mm vise. Now, a regular jaw, in fact, I have one here for a soft jaw, won't work. The 9mm won't work because it's not deep enough. We won't be able to get the shock clamped down because the shock is just too wide, right? So somebody out there needs to make a soft jaw, a printed soft jaw that's wide, just like this one is, with a 9mm hole in it. To remove the top cap, this is a eyelet removal tool to help you remove it. You could use a wrench, you could use a Nipex, whatever works best for you over there. But make sure you have something to torque it down, because we do need to torque down that top cap back onto the inner air can. So once we remove the inner air can, at that point, we need to remove the reservoir components like the top cap. So this is a Schrader valve removal tool to remove the Schrader valve. Then a hook comes in handy, or a pick with a hooked pick comes in handy to remove the cap itself. From there, we are going to, oops, I messed that one up. From there, we are, magnets. From there, we are going to remove the oil. We need to remove the bleed screw. We need a T8 Torx bit in order to remove the bleed screw. You're going to need a pan to put the oil in. Then we are going to remove the bleed screw from the IFP itself. That's a 2mm Allen, and you might need maybe a plier of some type to hold down the IFP in order to remove the bleed screw. We'll get into that later. We're going to be doing a 2-syringe bleed over here. We're going to need adapters. The first adapter is Fox's adapter. This is an aftermarket technically, 803-01-691. This one attaches to the body's bleed screw. I created a setup over here. I used a plastic, air valve type adapter that screws into this guy, and, rest is a regular syringe. For the IFP side, we could go with a separate adapter, not from Fox, basically. In fact, Fox doesn't sell one that I know of. This comes from RC Cars. It's from Dubro, DU-Bro. Part number 241. They cost about $1.99. This is great for bleeding from IFPs. It fits perfectly into the bleed hole of an IFP, okay? So we're gonna do the whole bleeding. We'll get into that later. When we're done, we need to set the IFP. To set the IFP, Fox's IFP tool I think is outstanding, although it is expensive. You could use just a caliper. I use a caliper just to make sure that the Fox tool is set correctly. Then we need to fill up the IFP with air. To do that, this is your typical air adapter to fill an IFP chamber with a hand pump. This, a subscriber recommended to me. It's a lossless version of this, something that I've been wanting for a while. I've sort of made my own for nitrogen systems. Basically, it has a pin inside. When you screw this into the shock pump, it will press down on this pin, which will press down on that pin, which should press down on the Schrader valve in order to fill it up. The nice thing is when it comes to removing, we won't lose air, or at least we shouldn't. I've never tried this before. This is going to be the first time I'm trying this one, or else we go back to the original version, all right? We are going to need a torque wrench to torque things down, paper towel, alcohol comes in handy, and that's pretty much it. I feel like I missed something. If I did, we'll get into it while we're doing the job. Let's go into the parts needed for the job. As for parts, we don't need any. We're not changing seals here. We're just going to change oil, all right? So we are going to need 4-weight oil. Fox makes their own. It's the exact same one like this one. Motorex, buy this one. It's going to cost you half the money, and you'll probably find it easier around your area. We're going to need a little bit of 20-weight oil in order to coat the seals on the inner and outer air can, or inner air can more than anything, or bearing assembly really more than anything, and a little bit of SRAM butter or slick oleum, slick honey, whatever your preference is for, again, the seals on the air can when we put it together. And that's it. Let's bleed this shock. Before working on your X2, make sure you clean it thoroughly. These shocks attract a lot of dirt. There's just a lot of places where dirt could get stuck, and we do not want dirt falling into it when we're putting it back together. So it's super important that you check all these little spots where dirt could get trapped, right? So make sure it is clean. First thing we are going to do is we're going to take down our air pressure and let out the air, right? So make sure you do that. You want to write down your settings because you're pretty much going to want your settings where they were when we're done. So in this case, it is 204. So let's say 204 plus few, 204 for now. All right, now we're going to take the air out. Take the air out nice and slow, no rush over here. Should sink in a little bit near the end. Like I said, the slower, the better over here. You want air to come out of both sides, right? There is no rush. You're just doing yourself a favor. And that goes for all shocks and forks, by the way. Okay, done. So now we take this out. Next, we write down our settings for our knobs. All right, now, when it comes to the knobs on the X2s, man, these things are super sensitive. You really got to be careful with them, right? So let's start off with the high-speed compression. That's a 6mm. We have a 6mm. Inside that, we have a low-speed compression, which is a 3mm. So when we turn clockwise, we are locking it. When we turn it counterclockwise, we are opening the knobs. And that goes for all knobs, all right? So in this case, we always want the knobs open while we are working on a shock. So I'm going to turn it counterclockwise. Technically, Fox says, well, they start all their knob recommendations from the full closed, which is the fully clockwise, but I don't care in this case. I'm just going counterclockwise, all right, and put it back. So 1, 2, wow, only one. Yeah, there was one. Now, one thing to realize with these knobs, they are sensitive, man. You're gonna get to a point where you feel like there's another click, and you might be compelled to sort of force it there. Do not force it there. You'll break the knobs, you'll jam them inside, right? So when it gets to a point when you hear the clicks, for instance, right? And it gets to the end and it feels like there's a little bit more you could go, well, do not force it there. There is no more you could go. Just go back to that last click and you are good to go, okay? So in fact, this was 7. Yeah, weird, okay, 7, seems pretty high to me. So, and put it to the fully open position. Now we're going to grab our 3mm. We're going to do the same for our low speed compression. Okay, it goes on the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. So again, this one, same thing. It feels like it could go more, but it can't. Do not force it. Just leave it at that last click. Then we're going to do our low speed rebound. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13. 13. Okay, leave it fully open, and then we have our rebound. We're going to turn it counterclockwise, right? Yeah, so fast, slow. Yeah, so we're turning it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, that was 5. There we go. Now we're ready to open it up. The shock is now mounted on the vise. Next, we want to open it up. First, we're going to have to take out this little clip, all right? So if you notice over here, we have notches that sort of line up. Make sure those notches are lined up. Take the clip, move it over, hold one side of it, lift it up on one side, and you should be able to now take it and spin it all the way around till it all pops out. Take that, put it on the side. Then what we're going to do is make sure that the can is lined up with those notches, and we're just going to pull up. And out comes the air can, all right? Take the air can, we're going to put it on the side. Next, I inverted the shock, so now it's clamped at the bottom on the rebound side. We want to separate the inner air can. To do this, Fox has a special tool that grips onto these teeth. This is an expensive tool. The advantage that this tool offers is that it comes with protection, so you don't scratch, or lowers your chances of scratching your Kashima coating or your coating in general, right? It just goes in there, you find the teeth, and it locks into place, and then you just loosen it using a ratchet. They make aftermarket tools that work just as good. You just need to be a little bit extra careful. What you can do to protect yourself is clean the stanchion, or well, technically a stanchion damper body, whatever you want to call it. Then you can grab some tape and wrap it around. Doesn't have to be perfect over here. Again, we're just protecting it in case we scratch it. Even though I have the tool, I'll show you that this tool works just as good, okay? So again, we just put it in there. Now the trick over here is hold down on the tool evenly, okay? And then we take it and give it a good turn. And now we should be able to loosen, take off the tape. Actually, now that I think about it, I should have probably left the tape on, but it's okay. And there we go. Next, we want to remove this top head. To do that, we need to expose the shaft on the inside, pull down the air can, we have the shaft, okay? First thing we are going to do is clean that shaft. Get all grease out of it. Then we're going to put it in a soft jaw, 9mm. Now, regular soft jaws aren't deep enough, so you could use a 9mm, older ones 3/8. The problem is this isn't wide enough. It's not going to separate the jaw in the vise wide enough in order to allow this guy to fit in. This is pretty wide, right? That's why we need a deeper type soft jaw. So I'm not sure who out there makes aftermarkets. These will work if you get them wide enough. I just don't have one. I mean, I have this equivalent, but ultimately I don't have a regular 9mm that's wide enough in order to allow this guy to fit in. So I'm just going to use this guy here. We're going to put him on our 9mm. That's 1. Plus, I love this soft jaw. 2. Put this guy in. Careful with them. Squeeze them together. Let's make sure we got good enough grip in there. And don't over tighten them. I have an eyelet removal tool, but you could use a wrench, you could use a Nipex, just make sure and try not to mar them, right? So I'm gonna put this guy in here, and there we go. You're supposed to hear those clicks as he's unscrewing out. That's totally normal. And then boom, there is our top cap. And we're gonna leave everything intact as is, although there is Loctite over here we're gonna clean up later before we put more Loctite when we close it back up. Next, we need to remove the lock ring from the inner air can. So to do that, we need to lock down on these ribs. So you're gonna need a soft jaw for the rib cage or the outer can of an X2, okay? So these are specific, these are proprietary basically. Now, I have them on this set over here. I'm gonna use the nylon ones just to show you that you could do it with the nylon ones, right? So the first thing we wanna do is just make sure it's clean and there is no grease on it, so it could have good grip on the actual vise or soft jaw. Clean the ribs. Now, when you grab it, you can only clamp from here to here. You cannot clamp above here or below here, all right? Only in this area. So I'm going to take this guy, we're going to put him here. We're going to take the other one, we're going to put it here. And we're going to put him inside. Good fit. Then we're going to clamp him down. And once again, we have our choice of tools. We could use this tool. If you use this tool, put a little tape around here to protect the stanchion. But since I already used that tool, let's use this Fox tool over here. And clamp it in there. There we go. Put the vise in, the ratchet in, and hold down on it. And nope, a little bit tighter. There we go. All right. Now it's going to take a few turns. Be careful over here. Should be able to do it by hand. Again, that's the advantage with this tool, but it is expensive. It does come with built-in protection for scenarios like that. I have to assume that when they first created the X2s, and these guys at the factory were figuring out methods to service them, there were quite a few scratch stanchions before they said, you know what, we're putting plastic on this thing to protect it. Okay, and this is going to take quite a few turns, guys. Just be careful over here. Take your time. There's no rush. All right, it's going to get easier and easier. Problem is it likes to flop around, right? It constantly wants even pressure down so it stays in one spot. Just like that. Come on. Come on, dummy. Get in there. Hey. What the? There we go. Get it? There we go. Loosen it up. Take it out. Now we can pop out with our air can. Done. Next we work on the reservoir. For the reservoir, first we need to remove the cap where the Schrader valve is. So grab your Schrader removal tool, put it in there. Unscrew the cap. Do not lose the cap. All right, pull it out, put it on the side. Then what we can do is remove the Schrader valve. Just do it very slowly, all right? Very, very slowly. There we go, just like that. Although that's really not good, to be honest, because oil can come out there and you end up breathing it in, right? The right way to do it, in my opinion, well, I don't know why I didn't do it just like that, or do it the right way, is put a little bit of paper towel on it, and then take, like, you know, a 3mm Allen or something and press down on it, and this way the oil will get absorbed into the towel as opposed to you potentially breathing it, because that stuff's bad to breathe, man. Okay, let's take this guy out. Since we're here now, and he's all good anyway. Now, what we do is we push down on the cap, just like that, and there will be a ring over here on the top part, right? Find the edge of the ring and use your thumb in order to flip them. Be careful with them. Just being stubborn. Usually most of the times they'll just pop. There we go. Careful with them. Take them, put them on the side. Next, we need a pick with a hook on it. Put it on the hole in the top of the cap and pull the cap straight up. Be careful. Doesn't need much pressure. Take it, put them on the side. Next, we're going to take the oil out of the system, right? For that, we are going to need a T8 Torx for the bleed screw. Now, if you have older versions, the bleed screws could be in different locations, right? But it's all the same old bleed screw, right? Just take it, snap it open. All right, be careful over here. Always wear your safety glasses. That's why you wear your safety glasses. And basically we are just going to cycle them until the oil comes out. As always, folks, when it comes to oil, dispose of it properly. Don't put it down a sink. Don't put it down a toilet. Don't put it in the garbage. Don't throw it outside. put it in a can or a bottle or something that specifically states don't drink on it. Bring it to a local bike shop, mechanic shop. They'll dispose it for you correctly, all right? Typically, the next step would be to remove the bearing assembly, but we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be filling up the shock with needles, syringes on both sides, okay? So our next step is we're going to put the cap back on, right? So hold on to the shaft, grab the eyelet, turn it. That's normal to hear the rebound turn. We're going to fix that in a bit, right? We don't need it tight. Again, we just need leverage to push this in and out as part of the bleed process. Then we're going to take our retaining ring and we're going to put it back into the reservoir on the inside. And this, be careful over here, right? Make sure you don't scratch anything on the inside. There we go. This is to make sure the IFP doesn't pop out during the bleed process. Next, what we're going to do is we are going to verify that all our dials are in the fully open position. Again, fully counterclockwise. This one fully open. Don't force it past, right? To the last click. That's it. Do the inside. There we go. So that's fully open. Let's do the high-speed compression just to make sure. There we go. And now I'm pretty sure that this one over here, because we closed it shut, the clicks that we heard put it to the closed position. So we're going to take them towards the fast, right? 1, 2, yep. So just bring them all the way to the end. And there we go. He's at the end. Now we start the bleed process. As for the bleed process, again, we're going to be using syringes, okay? So we're going to need the adapter for the main bleed hole on the body, and then this Dubro adapter. These are super cheap. I wish they made both of them for this version with the same adapter for the IFP. So what we're going to do first is fill our adapters with oil. So we're going to fill it up a little bit first, just like on a brake. What we're going to do, suck it all in. We don't want any air in here. That slipped. Be careful. Now we're going to force the air out. Okay. And we're going to fill this guy up. My gloves are slippery. Pretty much all the way, guys, because we're going to need a lot of oil on this. Okay. And that's good enough for this one here. And we are going to repeat this one. So again, fill them up a little bit. He apparently didn't reach to the bottom. Great. Probably because he's curved. There we go. All right. Suck in the oil. Push the oil out. Get rid of all the air in the syringe. There we go. Put them back in here. And hopefully he was deep enough. Fill him up as well, all the way. We're going to need a lot of oil over here. Okay. So first we're going to start with the main bleed hole. We're going to take our adapter, we're going to put it in. Okay, screw it in, make sure you don't strip it, and put it all the way in. Make sure that the seal is on the adapter, right? We want an airtight seal over here. Put it all the way in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to inject oil. We're going to see our IFP pop up at some point. There we go. Okay. So our IFP is popped up. Now, pull back the syringe for now so we have negative pressure in there. Okay. Next, we take out this bleed screw. To take out that bleed screw, 2mm Allen. Now, if it doesn't come out easily, oh, this one came out easily. In fact, I'm going to put some less pressure in there. Again, pull it back so oil doesn't just come out. If you can't turn it or loosen it just with a 2mm alone, then grab a needle nose plier and grab it on the edges. But in my case, it worked. Actually, I don't need this guy. I'm going to need this guy. Sometimes you'll need the plier, sometimes you don't. Now we're going to take him, we're going to put him on the side. Then we're going to grab our other syringe. And this guy could be a little bit tricky to get him caught first, or get him, because there's so little room over here. There we go. Just getting those first threads turned in sometimes could be a little bit tricky. Okay, now we got to make sure this guy is tight in there. We want a good seal. Got to make sure that you have your seal on the All right. Now what we can do to make sure we get a good seal. There we go. Now we start bleeding. So the first part of the bleed process is to fill this thing with oil, okay? So let's first make sure that he's pulled all the way back. And then we're gonna inject. All right. There's gonna be a lot of oil that's gonna go in here, guys. I'm starting to feel pressure on this side, so I'm gonna start injecting. Now we got air coming out, right? And we have to remember with this shock, it's a full circulatory system, unlike most shocks that aren't. So just inject from one side to the other. Just like that. Okay, and we're going to be going back and forth for now, trying to remove as much air as possible before we go on to phase 2. Okay, so this is nothing more than going back and forth. Make sure we don't get oil in the system. Hopefully you guys can see this well. I mean air in the system. Just go back and forth like that. Now, what we can do as well, we got syringes. We could use vacuum, and vacuum is our friend. All right, so for instance, the only thing is you got to be careful because it's a little hard to do it with one. If you have something to elevate this, maybe somewhat, actually something, I don't know anything to elevate this. Huh. There we go. Boom. So what we're going to do, if you notice, this is going to help bring in additional bubbles. So long as the bubbles aren't coming from the edge over here, I should have a good seal. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, make sure we're in the open position over here. Okay. See? That'll help force bubbles to come out, that vacuum. Let's go all the way down. And then we're going to do the same to the other side. Vacuum them up. Oh, I'm all the way at the top here. So let's force them down on this side. And again, let's vacuum them up. Once pressure builds, it'll start sucking out more and more air. There we go. Less and less and less and less. That's looking pretty good right there. Actually, I like that one. Now let's try and push through. So this is where I think some people could get this wrong. Going back and forth without using vacuum like this, if I keep on going over and over and over, chances are I will not see any bubbles. I guarantee you there's still air in there, okay? In fact, let's test that. Let's do a vacuum one more time. Again, we have to build up pressure. Soon I'm gonna have to remove these or remove the syringes and take out this air because that air inside works against us, see? Still more bubbles in there. So guys, this is a question of going back and forth over and over until we get a point where when we vacuum, we barely see any, if any, bubbles. Okay, and again, when you're vacuuming on one side, right, and you don't see all that many bubbles come out, then force from the other side to fill up the syringe, and do that back and forth, back and forth. I'm just going to do this. It shouldn't take all that many times. I'm going to do this about another probably. Well, I'm just going to do it until I feel like there aren't all that many bubbles, because I don't know how long the camera's going to last before it burns out from heat anyway. All right. Let's try this again from this side. So I'm going to vacuum from that side. Okay, so we didn't get any bubbles there, but again, all that air on both syringes now is actually deceiving us, to be honest, because it's not creating enough pressure to suck little bubbles from very small areas. Okay, and I will prove that. What I'm going to do is we are going to take out, let's take out this syringe first, okay? We're going to take out this syringe, since it's the easier one. We're going to remove the air from within it. Make sure we have negative pressure in there. Okay. There we go. A little oil should spill out, but we still have vacuum in there, so shouldn't spill out. And what I'm going to do again is take out the air from the syringe. All right. This needs to get done. If you want to do this right, don't leave any air in there. Air is not our friend in the syringe in this case. Okay, let's go in here and let's fill it up again. So this time we don't need to fill it up as much. We'll fill it up about halfway. There we go, just like that. Okay, then I'm going to take them. I'm going to put them back in. Just like I thought, the camera overheated, but we are back. I am exactly where I left off. All I did was screw in the adapter to the shock, right? So when we took out the adapter, there was air in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to vacuum that air out. So let's push back. Actually, not all that much air. Okay, well, let's see if we can force air out. All right, so we're doing good. So let's go back and forth. All right, let's vacuum out. See if we get any more air vacuuming out. So far, so good. Not all that bad. Let's vacuum out from this side. See, the problem is now we got too much air on this side. Look how high my plunger is. I can't go any higher, right? So technically, we need to do the same on this side. We need to remove this air. So I won't record. I'm going to let this thing cool off a little bit more. All I'm going to do is remove the syringe, take out the air, and put the syringe back in. So again, I'm back. All I did was remove the air. I didn't even add more oil. We don't need more oil added into the syringes at this point, but we definitely want the air removed in order to get better vacuum. So again, chances are there was going to be an air bubble that was created when I removed it. That's pretty much it. And I'm going to suck that, and now we are going to suck in again. See, now we got more vacuum pressure because we don't have the air acting as suspension on the inside. So once again, it's going to allow for more oil, more air to draw out. Okay, definitely less air coming out, less bubbles coming out. That's pretty good right there. Let's inject now. All right, now let's reverse it. Let's vacuum out from this side. Like I said, now we're definitely going to get more, because we need to vacuum out the bubbles all the way around the whole system, right? So again, this shock definitely is more involved when it comes to bleeding than most shocks. Oop, that's not good. Actually, since that happened, yep, that's not good. I have my zip tie broke off and created a leak in my hose. So basically we're not going to use as much vacuum on this side. Okay, but ultimately, in my opinion, we're pretty much done with this phase of the bleed. And we are pretty much ready to move on to the next phase of the bleed. Let's do this a couple of times. Force down hard, all right? So we're going to push the syringes down real hard and get oil transferring back and forth all the way. Fill up your syringes. Just like that. Okay, we're looking pretty good right now. We're ready to go on to phase 2 of the bleed. For phase 2, what we're going to do is we're going to press down this syringe over here until it's about, a quarter of the way. All right. Then we're going to remove the screw on this side. The syringe on this side. We have it too tight in there. Let's loosen it. Right. There we go. All right. Now we remove it. There we go. Now, we shouldn't get that much oil that comes out. We're not too worried about any oil that comes out. Next, we grab our bleed screw. Let's inject some oil in there until oil comes out. Get the air from inside there out. There. Oop. Should be getting close. Wow. There we go. All right. So now, we're going to take our screw. We're going to put it in. Okay, turn it until the whole piston turns. And then if you want to be extra sure, what you can do, just grab a needle nose plier, grab the edges of the piston. Could you see that? Hopefully you can see that well. And give it a nice little turn. Don't over tighten it. Just a nice little solid turn. And we are done with that. So I attached him to the vise. Now this is a little bit tricky with this year Fox X2, the way everything is positioned. We need access to the dials, the IFP at the bottom over here. You can't see it. And, well, the back so we can push it up and down. What we're trying to do, and we want the bleed port to be at the highest spot, right? So all air comes up over here. So what we're going to be doing is literally part of the normal bleed process for one of these things, which is turning the dials and pushing the shaft in and out in order to get out those last little bubbles that might be trapped inside. All right? So that's what we're going to be doing. So if you notice when I put pressure now, it pushes out, right? So let's just keep on going back and forth. Bring him out. Now let's turn on the dial. Let's turn the dials. Get them moving. Oops, I got this backwards. Yeah, I got them backwards, I bet. Yes, I do have them backwards. Okay, so let's bring him to the fully closed position. All right. Push him in, nothing going on here. Bring him back to the fully open position. My hands are slippery. Should dry them. Bring it to the fully open. Remember, don't over push him. Okay. Bring him out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to push the IFP with our thumb, try and push him in. He's going to be a little bit tricky, might be a little bit hard. Oops. It's going to be really hard actually. Okay. For this part here, let me just go here because these guys hit. Yeah. Okay, push the IFP in. I'm pushing the IFP in. I don't see any air coming out. Oh, there goes a little bubble. Now we're going to push down on the syringe again. The IFP will immediately come out. Right now it came all the way out, even though you can't see it. Let's push the IFP in again. Okay. All the way in. That pushed all the way out. Again, let's push this guy all the way in. Push him all the way out. Wow, I think we're doing real good, man. Nope, I hear a little bit of air inside. There's definitely some air in there. Let's see if we could pulse him now. What we're going to do is vacuum pulse him, right? The whole idea over here is to agitate any bubbles out of, there you go. I knew there was a little bit of air in there. See, if you pulse him, it'll agitate bubbles. Vacuum pulse him, and basically those bubbles will be forced to move, right? So it's a good thing. So let's do this again. Push him all the way in. All right. Let's put this guy out here again so we can get access to those knobs. Let's try the big knob first. Again, press him in. Push him in. Let's do the small knobs as well. All right. Push him in. When we lock him, it should be hard for him to come out. All right, so there we go. Let's do the rebound as well. If I can find the hole. Early 50s and I can't find the hole. Not fitting well in the hole is, well, typical for me. Okay. Make sure he's in the fully open position. Bring him all the way out. There we go. Push back in. And basically, guys, we are repeating this. Oop, there goes a bubble. See that? Don't think you're done. See these little bubbles? You want to get rid of every, hopefully you can see those well. You want to get rid of every single one of those bubbles. Bring them out here. All right, there you go. Again, suck them out. Don't leave them inside. Make sure they go all the way to the top as well. All right, just when you think you're done, you're not. This is a very tricky shock. There's air that could get trapped in all sorts of spots. Let's lift them up again, press in the IFP. Oops. Stupid design. Okay, pressing up the IFP. Bring him all the way in. Then both IFP and the back end should come out with force. Okay, all the way out. Let's do that again. Ooh, that's sounding better. There's still, you can hear like a little trickle, right? I don't know if you could hear that. But there is absolutely a little air bubble in there. I could absolutely hear it. Bring this guy in. See if we can get him out. Push the IFP in all the way again. Okay, now we're going to force them both out. The IFP is coming out. Now the other side is coming out. Let's see that little bubble? Again, there you go. That's why you pulse vacuum. Don't pull vacuum them. Pulse, just pulse, 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 pulse vacuum. So you could get stuff like that to get agitated out of little spots. And make sure they come all the way up to the top so we don't put them back in. All right, let's force him out again. Oh, hear that? Look how silent that is now. I don't hear any noises coming out of this side. So let's push the IFP again. And guys, take your time over here. You're doing yourself a favor. Just go over and over and over until you feel comfortable. Oh, see, there's an air bubble in there. I just heard it. So I moved the IFP. There was obviously something trapped, probably in the dials, and ultimately it just let go. So now I gotta get him out of there. Let's see if we could do it. Sucking the IFP in. There's an air bubble. I'm literally sucking the IFP in now. IFP's at the base. Let's force the IFP out. Let's force this guy out. Actually, let's vacuum. Let's try the dials one last time. Such a pain in the butt with this shock. The other versions, this was placed different, or the other model years, this was placed in a different position. So, see, that won't work. See what I mean? It's just a major pain in the butt with this shock. 2024. Just make sure you don't squish the seal. Actually, you know what? I'm done. Let's just push this guy all the way down. I'm so stupid. There we go. There we go. Let's put more of an angle on him. Let's see if we could get... Oh, look at that. What I thought, I knew there was air in there. I was able to hear it. Still a little bit more air going back and forth. Okay, see if I can push in. Let's suck in the IFP again. There we go. I'm willing to bet that might be the last of it right there. There's another little bubble. IFP's all the way in. Let's push the IFP out. Let's push the shaft out. I'm sure the camera is going to go within the next minute or two. Just repeat this, guys, until you see no air bubbles after, let's say, 5, 6, 10 times of going back and forth, all right? See, that's an air bubble. Don't let them go in. Push them out. Okay, so I'll be back when, see what I mean? Still getting more air out. We're going for all these little micro bubbles now. Once again, the camera overheated, but I've gone back and forth about 3 more times and we are done. I'm sure there's not 1 ounce of air inside this shock, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna push it down to make sure it all extends, especially this side. The IFP will always push out before this guy does. So we're gonna push him until he makes it to the end, all right? Then what we're gonna do, we're gonna remove it from this side. We're gonna bring him to this side to make our life a little bit easier. Just like that. Okay, because now we have to set the IFP. So I repositioned the shock. We have the bleed port at the highest point. We have access to our IFP at the bottom, right? So we're gonna grab our IFP tool. Now we need to make sure that the IFP is set to the appropriate depth. So in this case, for our X2, it's 1.14 inches. For those who like millimeters, for those who like fractions, 1.9/64, and for those who like millimeters, 28.97 millimeters is your target, all right? So I use a caliper. You can use a caliper, somewhat difficult. Personally, I love this Fox tool. And basically the goal is to make sure that this and this touch perfectly, okay? So before we set the IFP, let's give it one more round of tests to make sure that we have no air inside, right? Wow, that's silent. Again, let's push this up. Let's suck up the IFP. Make sure no, oh, there you go. 1 little bubble, and that's why we test it. All right. He's all the way at the top. Let's push him all back out. Let's do that about 10 times. One more time before we set the IFP. I would have preferred him to be positioned this way from the beginning, but I can't access the dials. He's definitely quiet. Okay, let's suck up the IFP one more time. No bubbles there. Push down the IFP all the way down. Push down this guy here. Okay, oops. Up and down. Okay. Wow, that's a really small micro bubble. See what I mean? Little things like this is what we want to take care of. Let them go all the way to the top. Make sure he gets sucked in there. You would think that those don't make a difference. Every one of these makes a difference. He just got sucked in. Let's push him down. IFP's out. Okay. So by quiet, this is what I mean by quiet. We don't want it, there's gonna be noises, guys, but there's not gonna be like slurpy noises. So to give you an idea, I don't know what you could hear. Probably shouldn't have talked there. Let's try it one more time. All the way in, all the way out. See what I mean by quiet? When you hear slurpy sounds or slushy sounds, that means you have air in there. And sometimes they're not consistent through the whole travel. It's just a bubble going through the shims, right? So that's what you want it to sound like. You want it to be relatively quiet, but there are going to be sounds just from the shims moving because the shims do flex, right? So when oil will go through them basically. I really think we're good. I'm going to do it one more time. So let me bring them all the way up. Let me suck in the IFP. No air bubbles there. Let's push out the IFP. IFP's all the way out. Now let's push out this side. That will always come out after the IFP. Pressurize the system really good. Okay. So let's make sure we got our bleed screw handy. Bleed screw was 2 millimeter, right? Oh no, that was, God, for crying out loud, that was our T8, my bad. Yep, so let's make sure our bleed screw is handy over here. All right, so what we're gonna do is we are going to, actually first what we're gonna do is we're gonna take out the syringe, okay? So let's make sure we fully pressurize the system. Pressurize it, let it go. Now we're gonna remove the syringe. In fact, just in case we get a little bit of spillage. Okay, our IFP is all the way out. All right. Our bleed port is at the highest level. Let's put this guy on the side. Now what we're going to do, with this tool, we need to lock in the IFP. So we're going to push him in, twist him a little bit, and he will lock in. There we go. Now the reason I love this tool is because I can't overshoot, right? It's going to land right at the edge of here. So again, make sure, there we go. Now I'm going to push him in. All this extra oil is going to come out. We're bleeding it basically for the last time. All right, and when he hits the base, we are going to, there we go, screw in our screw. Fist tight. We are bled. Now we close up the reservoir. First, we take out the retaining ring we had inside. Use your thumb, push them down a little bit. Just be careful with them. Pop them out, put them on the side, right? Then we're going to take a little bit of shrimp butter, slicoleum, whatever your preference is. Coat the inside walls. All right. Then I'm going to grab our cap. Put a little bit of grease on the O-ring on the cap. Running out. All right, just put a little coat. Now as for the cap, make sure this part sticks up, all right? And try and aim the hole this way to make your life easier in a bit. So we're gonna take this guy, we're gonna sink him in, just like that. All right, sink him in just a bit. Enough to put the C-clip back in. So put him in the seat and then walk him all the way around until he pops in just like that. Then we take our hook, put him in the hole, pop him out. Then we grab our Schrader valve, put him in the hole, use our Schrader valve tool, screw him in until he's nice and snug at the bottom. Snug, finger tight snug. All right, don't over tighten them. Now we fill them up. As for filling it up with air, we need 100 PSI. You could technically go up to 125 PSI if you want it to be a little bit more reactive. You could use air or nitrogen. In this video, I'm gonna use regular air because chances are you guys are gonna be using an air pump. In the full service video, I'm gonna use nitrogen. So let's mix it up. Now, this is your typical adapter, air fill adapter. This one will work. Now, this one over here, subscriber let me know about it. It's from Racetech. It's a lossless adapter. So if you notice, it has a pin over here. And the whole goal is that's supposed to pin when you screw down this end, it should push on this pin, which should push on this pin, which should push on the valve. I have no idea how well it works. This is going to be first time I'm using it, but the advantage that this would have over this, when it comes to unscrewing this one here, removing it, this one here, you have to remove it by the adapter, and you got to be real quick or you could seep air out while you're removing it. Whereas this here, technically, it's lossless. We should be able to remove it from this side, from the hose side, and we shouldn't lose any air at all because the pin will go back, allowing the pin and the Schrader valve to go back. Let's give it a shot, see if it works. All right, so I'm gonna take this guy, we're gonna screw him in, just like that. Now, technically, I should be able to put this guy in. It works the way it's supposed to, and him I'll have to screw all the way down until he's nice and tight. There we go. Okay. Like I said, I've never used this one before. So 100 PSI, I'm gonna go to 100. Let's see how this pans out. 88, 86, 93. Ooh, 99. 103. Let me take out a little bit. Not that it really matters, to be honest. But it's always going to be our last. 102. 100. Let's see if this works. Technically, I should be able to remove from this side and not lose any air. Look at that. Now the big question is, when I remove this guy now, will we lose air? We shouldn't. There we go. Guys, the Race Tech adapter works. I will put the link in the description. I want to use them with the nitrogen system as well to see if that one works, because I had asked those power tank guys to see if they could build something basically identical to this. All right, we have 100 PSI. Now we could take our adapter, put them in, and now we test them. So first, we're in the fully open position for everything. Let's, oh yeah, that's a nice response. That's pretty good, actually. I'm liking that. Now let's put the low speed compression, because the high speed compression, you won't feel it. Low speed compression to the fully closed. Oh yeah, I gotta force down on this guy. So that is working just fine. Now let's take the rebound, low speed rebound, high speed rebound again. We won't feel it by hand. He's all the way in the locked position. Not going anywhere. And there he goes. We are working perfectly, folks. Again, we could try the high-speed rebound, but you won't feel it. Just like there's not enough pressure in our hands to feel the high-speed compression or the rebound. You know what I mean? This is for fast jolts. So let's leave them in a fully open position. Now let's finish up the air cans. First, we need to put the inner air can in. So let's remove this cap, grab the eyelet. That's normal. Hearing the clicks from the rebound. Yep, we're going to put it down. All right, now what we're going to do next is we're going to take some oil. We're going to put it on the bearing seals. All right, just like that. 20 weight oil, right? 20 weight gold. Okay, then we're going to take our air can, put them in, just like that. And let's take a cc of oil and put them in just like that. That should be more than enough. Close the top, bring them all the way down, and screw them in until you can't screw them in anymore. Okay, as far as you can by hand. Make sure he's all the way down so we don't get negative pressure. All right, now, very important here, clean the ribs. Make sure there's no grease on them so we get good grip. Okay, grab some of that alcohol, clean the inside of your vice jaws. Now, what we're going to do, again, always by the ribs, never down here, never up there, right? Only by the ribs, just like that. So in this case, we'll grab the upper rib, put them in the vise, screw them down. Let me reposition the camera. Now we got to torque them down to 20 Newton meters. Again, you could grab either tool, right? This is your mount point for your torque wrench. So first let's do it by hand. Make sure it's down all the way. Okay, that's as far as I could go by hand. Now let's find position where he locks in. And then, about 90-degree angle. I'm already set to 20 Newton meters. Actually, that's not going to work out as far as 90 degrees. Make sure you get your 90-degree angle over here. So let's say somewhere around there. Nope. Let's go flat like that. And then let's put them in. All right. Now I should be able to do the same thing. Oop, found him. And let's see. Oop, he's slipping. Oop, I loosened him. Let's torque him down tighter. And there we go. 20.2, 20.3 was our target technically. He is locked down. Before we work on the outer air can, we need to put our cap back on. Now, in order to do that, we need to put Loctite Red on this guy. Now, I had cleaned him out best I can. There's a little bit left, but it won't make a difference. So what I'm going to do is, see, we have no negative pressure, so this thing comes right back up, which is really nice. So it doesn't suck down, basically, right? That's why I screwed it down before all the way at the end. So we're going to put a little bit of Loctite Red, top threads. Oops. I don't like that. Let's take him out. Let's do that again. Be a little bit more careful. The hole on this is a little too big. Okay. We're not putting more, we're just spreading them around. Blow into them to blow them into the threads. Now, before we screw them down, we're going to put about a cc of oil in the positive chamber. Okay, then we're going to take this guy, screw him in by hand, best we can. And then just like when we took them out, we need that 3/8. There we go. Okay, hold this guy down. Make sure that our shaft is clean. And I just spilled out some of that oil. Great, and it spilled out. Okay, guys, these are the mistakes that you're going to have to avoid. Make sure you don't make the same one I just did. Let's clean all this. Now let's completely clean him. We definitely don't want oil in our 3/8 socket, out of all places for the oil to fall into. Murphy's Law, man. But I'm showing you this because the same thing could happen to you and you need to be careful. Let's do that one more time. Okay, that should be clean enough. This guy, nothing fell on him. Let's just make sure he's clean. All right, so once again, since I spilled the oil out of him, let's put a little bit of oil in him again. Okay, so now what we are going to do is take our 3/8, actually 9mm, sorry, 9mm. Okay, lock him down on one side. Let's get him down on the other side, make sure he's even. There we go. Let's put this guy in here. Love the extra magnets I put inside. Let's screw him down. Oops. Oh. Stop. There. What's stopping him? Oh. There we go. The reservoir, so just make sure your reservoir is not up against whatchamacallit, your vise. Then 90-degree angle. You could use any tool you want. Newton meters. Should have had this preset, 90-degree angle. Let's make sure, there we go. Perfect, 9.21, works for me. Within specs. Our top cap is on. All right. Pull this guy down. And he is in. Next, we need to torque down the top cap to the inner sleeve or the inner air can. So we had to mount it back onto the vise with the X2 soft jaw. All right, so what we're going to do is screw it down by hand first as much as we can. Okay. And then, there we go. So max I could do it by hand, 90-degree angle, 20 Newton meters just like before. 90-degree angle on this one. Again, you could use whatever tool you want. And 20, gotta go tighter. Okay. 20 on the nose. Our inner air can is done. All that's left is the outer air can. Before we put the outer air can on, let's take a little bit of grease. Let's put them on the seals. Now try and get them on the seals only. Try not to get them on top of the seals. It'll only make your life easier by collecting less dirt on top where the retaining clip goes. All right, so try and like from the bottom up like that. Try and apply it, right? You don't want grease to be up here because that'll stick. Dirt will stick to that like a magnet. And do the same thing to the bottom. Try and keep the grease on the O-ring and the sleeve on the inside. There we go. We don't want to track dirt in areas that, especially areas close to seals where we don't want it. Okay, so then we take this guy, we mount him in a pair of soft jaws. Don't put him too low. There we go. Mind frame. Yes, I am. All right. So now we take him. This guy goes down, right? The Schrader valve goes down. Put him on top. Fit him in. One. Bring him all the way down. Now, there. Yep, there I am. So you got to line up those notches, right? Make sure you line up those notches. Clean any excess grease. So push them all the way down. Grab our retaining ring. What we're going to do is we're going to push them into one side where the notch is, underneath. Spin them around, underneath the next one, and there we go, right? Now we are in. Then we're going to take a pick. We're just going to bring it around to the outside out here somewhere. This way our notches are protecting it. Next up, grab some alcohol, coat them well, and we clean off all the excess grease and oil. This shock already has a tough enough time, as there's so many areas that oil could get trapped, or dirt could get trapped, I should say. All right, especially here and in here. Make sure you clean up as much as you can over here. And ta-da! And there you have it, folks. You just finished fully bleeding your Fox Factory Series Float X2 rear shock. Again, guys, not a hard job. It's just a bit time consuming because there are a lot of parts and pieces to this shock, right? Great shocks, like I mentioned, but they are unpredictable. They could fail at any time. Whether the 2024 newer versions made a difference, I can't honestly say. I don't have that kind of data. As far as numbers, my guess is it might help a little bit, but chances are even the newer versions are going to fail on you, where you will need to bleed it. You don't always need to do a full service, okay? Sometimes you just need to go in there and reset things with a bleed, and you are good to go for a whole bunch of more hours. From this point on, put your dials to where they were before. Make sure you put your air in with your air cap. Do not forget your air cap. And when you're all set and done, you're ready to go out there and tear it all up, okay? So, guys, if you like this video, please click that like button, click that subscribe button to see more videos, click that bell button, ding, in order to get notified when new videos get released and more videos like this are coming. Until then, I hope all is well with all of you, and we will be talking to you soon. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.